Hello and welcome to the bonus feedback episode for Interview with the Vampire, Season 2, Episode 2. I do have some stray observations, a few interviews, and some pretty funny or observant things that I found on Tumblr. But before we hop into that, let's get into the mailbag, where we will hear from Queen Mimi.
Mail, motherfucker!
What up, Stina? It's Mimi. This is feedback for Interview with the Vampire, Season 2, Episode 2. I will talk a little bit about episode 2, but I don't want this to be too long. I gotta get ready to go to work, and I still got a bunch of errands I need to do. But this weekend was my birthday. Friday, I spent it with Derek and Darren, and then Saturday, my sister took me out to dinner. I'm just real tired. I don't want to go to work today, but these are my last 3 days of this contract, and then I'll be off for the rest of the week, off Wednesday through Friday, and then Wednesday through Saturday, and then we go on vacation on Sunday. We leave in the morning Sunday and come back sometime in the afternoon on Friday. We're going to Canada, Toronto specifically, and Montreal. I'm just looking forward to not having to work and just be relaxed. And then when I come back, I'll start a new contract that's closer and that pays more. So that'll be exciting. I'm just looking forward to finally being on vacation. It's been a long time. I haven't taken any vacation time and done anything this year so far. So this will be exciting. But anyway, I think listening to your feedback for episode 1, I guess I kind of forgot the extent of your love for Louis and Lestat, and I still don't like their relationship. Louis is I'm starting to see why him and Lestat are compatible, because they're Louis tries to fight his what's the word I'm looking for? His cruelness, but it's still there because he says he has these rules, and it bothers me when people are like this. It's like, it's the difference between not being racist and being anti-racist. Louis is like not against vampirism, but he has his own rules. Like, I won't stop when I see a vampire torture another human, but I won't do it. He won't even remove himself. He won't even not want to be a part of those people. I just won't do it myself. And I don't know why, but that shit irritates me. It's either you're a vampire or you're not. Either you want to be with your people or you don't. I don't know. His teetering in the middle is so fucking annoying. I wish you get a fucking grip. You drink blood from humans, but every other day. Get the fuck out of here. Either you're gonna embrace who you are or you're not. His teetering is so fucking annoying. And the fact that I don't know. His relationship with Lestat is just so ridiculous. I personally am actually surprised that you stan them so much, because I can't get past the fact that he dropped Louis from hundreds of feet up in the air. That will never sit right with me. I don't care how much you say you love somebody. Lestat doesn't love Louis. There's no way he does. If you loved him, everything he did that you think is so admirable, if this was a human to human relationship, you would not be shipping them. So I don't understand why, just because they're vampires, we're supposed to ship two toxic, terrible relationship. If Rick dropped Michonne from, I don't know, the watchtower, even though he knew she would survive, she'll just have a couple broken bones. If he did that, would you still want Michonne and Rick together? If he stalked him constantly after Louis was like, I don't want to be with you anymore because you dropped me from or I'm sorry, if Michonne was like, I don't want to be with you anymore, Rick, because you dropped me from the watchtower and I broke my leg. Yes, I'm fine now. I'm 100% healed. And you knew that would happen, but you still dropped me because we were fighting. Would you want that relationship to perspire? No, we love Rick and Michonne because they're a good, healthy relationship. They love each other. They treat each other with respect. Louis and Lestant, well, I should say Lestant does not respect Louis. He might think he loves him, but that's not love. Like, everything he did, like, was not love. I cannot be okay with that relationship. I don't care if they're vampires. It's still terrible. The other thing I want to talk about is the fact that, I get it because Louis keeps calling Claudia his sister, and you believe so too, but I disagree. In my personal opinion, just because your child gets older and they're more mature, and even if it's a vampire, you don't suddenly become their brother. Louis, I think he wants to treat her that way because it's less burden on him and he doesn't feel as guilty for everything that he's put her through, because he was choosing Lestant over her. And I might be alone in that thinking that he kept choosing Lestant over her, but he did. Like, him leaving him alive and not killing him 100% was him choosing Lestant over Claudia. He did it over and over again. And I think in his mind, it's been 40 years so now she can be your sister. No, to me, the reason I believe Claudia will always be his daughter is because I know Lestant was the one that turned her, but it was at Louis's request. Louis felt guilty for having the whole town burned down because he's couldn't control his temper and he couldn't embrace his vampirism. So, like, he could have strong-armed everybody into making the rules different for him if he really wanted to, if we're being real. But he didn't do that. And then his tantrum, so to speak, when he, especially with the black only whorehouse or whatever he wanted to call it, he incited a riot and everything got burned down because that's what they do to black towns when they are too successful. And he ended up killing everybody. And his way, I guess, of deciding he's gonna, make amends was to take Claudia, who was a child. She was a very, I guess, uneducated, unexperienced, very, very young teenager, and turn her into a vampire. Like a child doesn't ask to be born, she didn't ask to be turned into a vampire. He could have let her die and she would have died a human, and then she could have went into wherever the great beyond is, and that would have been the end of the story. But he decided that he wanted to save her and make her a vampire without giving her all the information, which is the same thing I think Lestant did. I know you think Louis had control over it. I think that if he would have set Louis down and given him all of the pros and cons, we saw as Louis became a vampire more and more, Lestant would give him little pieces of information. Maybe that's the way they do it. I don't know vampire culture, but he didn't tell him everything. I don't know that Louis would have decided to continue to be a vampire had Lestant told him 100% everything that it would require. I don't know. He probably still would have chose. I have no idea. But he did the same thing to Claudia. He didn't give her a choice. He did something different. He didn't give her a choice. He just turned her into a vampire. And then he turned her so young. So now she has to act like and pretend to be a child, even though now she's, well into her 50s. So he can't now turn around and backtrack and be like, I'm your brother. No, the fuck you're not. That's your daughter, whether you want to claim her or not. Because the reason I feel this way is because watching episode 2, when Louis realized that Lestant not only was a co-creator of this theater, everybody also loved him and worshipped him, and they were going to be in, some grave danger, if they stayed. I get it. Claudia wanted to stay. I get it. And that's fine. But Louis, if he really felt like there was 100% danger, And he felt like that was like, if he hadn't convinced himself that that's his sister, he would have chosen her and been like, look, we're leaving. I'm not giving you an option. We're not going to stay. I don't know how to keep my thoughts clear, and we're going to get ourselves fucking killed. He would have put his foot down. He didn't even try, because in his mind, he thinks that he can convince himself that that's his daughter. That's not his daughter. That's his sister. And he also chose to stay because he wanted to be with Armand. And let's just keep it a buck. Let's call a spade a spade. He wanted to smash him. And once again, he chose a band over Claudia. Because if he really, truly cared about her and he really, truly thought they were in danger, why would he stay in Paris? Why would he stay there? Why would he stay with those people knowing the danger that they were in? And Claudia's clearly got her Coke bottle glasses, what do they call it, watercolor glasses on, just like she did when she saw that fucking Vecna looking ass vampire that didn't look like a regular vampire. He looked like a swamp monster. And she was so convinced that that was a regular vampire, and she couldn't wait to meet him. It's the same thing. I think he needs to decide, like, look, I'm going to stop being guilty. You do you and I'm going to do me, because this teetering that he's doing is so pathetic, and it makes me not respect him at all. It's very, very annoying. And poor Armand, like, the fact that when he was sitting on that couch, I felt uncomfortable. They were getting on my nerve with that fake ass lovey-dovey. It reminds me of a couple that I know that has to, like, I don't know if you're trying to convince yourself that you love each other or me, but I don't buy it, because if you really cared about someone and you loved them, you wouldn't be trying so hard. Like, y'all are really being extra, and it's fucking annoying. Daniel had me cackling because he was saying everything I felt. Like, when he said when Lestat was on the wall, he was like, I didn't see that coming. I should have seen that coming. I felt the same way. Felt the exact same way. And the fact that Armand continuously brought up, like, he's been with me longer than he's been with Lestat. And then you find out that they were together. And then in the next episode, we're going to find out how they actually met and everything about their relationship. Like I said, I don't know who you're trying to convince. Like, did you love Lestat and he left you? And then you find out this is the person he was with. And now to convince yourself that you're better, you want Louis to love you more. I don't know. I don't know what the thing is, but their relationship annoys the shit out of me. I would love to ship Louis with someone, but at this point, I would like him to love his fucking daughter, treat her as such, because I don't care what anyone says. That's not your sister. That's your fucking daughter. You might want it to be your sister, even to replace the sister that you lost. And you're doing the same shit. You're not being a very good sibling, even if you do think that's your sister, because you're letting her stay in a situation where y'all know y'all gonna, like that, the one Santiago, he looked like he knew immediately about Lestat. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's going to be the one that they need to worry about. And I actually respect him, and I like him as a character, because he embraces who he is. And it looks like he does creative work with it in every situation that he's ever in. I actually enjoyed his character. Claudia, I want her to be happy, but I think she's not looking at the situation for what it was. And like you said, she probably does think she's the smartest person in the room, which is always a detriment. When you can't foresee that someone else is smarter than you or more clever, you usually end up getting yourself screwed over. I feel like that's all of the notes that I wrote after listening to your review, well, I guess your recap, and also, like, I don't know if you're trying to be subtle with your book, quote unquote spoilers, but you're not. And I've always got the vibe that Louis and Daniel did something. I thought we were supposed to get that from season 1. So when you were like, keep that in your back pocket, I was like, didn't they already so much as say that Daniel might have been like questioning his sexuality? I don't know. I guess back then it was either you were gay or straight. Bisexual wasn't a thing. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I get the vibe that, you know, it gets to a point in the past where Louis no longer cares about, you know, having a code or whatever the hell he wants to call it. Maybe that's after Claudia dies, which is crazy because I feel like their relationship would have been better had he been more vampire than human. I don't know, but his choosing to like be a human when it's convenient is also very annoying. But I am looking forward to episode 3, and I can't wait to watch it. I'm probably not going to be able to watch it today, even though it's already on AMC Plus, which I still have because I never got rid of it because I forgot. So I just told myself I would keep it and watch this early, and I still haven't been able to watch it early because they have me working. Anyway, I think that's it. Until next time, love, peace, hair grease, and black girl magic. Queen of the couch, me out.
I too kept my AMC Plus because I forgot all about having it still going, and now I don't mind. And yes, I do get that early episode. And yes, after this podcast, probably not tonight though. Who am I lying to? I'm most likely going to go down a different rabbit hole. But yeah, I'm glad I still have the app for this show alone because I can watch it early if I choose to, depending on what I got going on. Being to your feedback, I will start at the top. First and foremost, going on vacation, yes. Getting paid more money, even better.
They say money can't buy happiness. Look at the fucking smile on my face.
You made several comments about how Louis is not embracing his vampirism, which includes some behaviors that do not line up with this moral code that he's trying to live up to, which in my opinion is very reflective of his human existence. I think in his vampire existence, he's playing out a lot of the same insecurities and insincerities or inconsistencies between his persona, where he's this really great brother who makes sure his sister is able to not want for anything financially. He takes care of. He wants to be seen as a pillar in the community, as someone of a rank of value, which is why he held on to wanting to have the Fair Play Saloon. But I go back to his confession in the booth to the preacher, where he remarks, I know what I am. I know that I'm saying I'm doing things for moralistic reasons, but I know in the back of my mind, I'm not really benefiting them any more than I'm benefiting myself, or I'm certainly benefiting myself more than they are being benefited, because they are going to have to deal with the emotional and physical trauma where I shut that out and continue on. And that is the scene you have where he's given into his own desires for Armand by flirting with him and showing his interest, while the scene behind him is horrific, and he makes, as you pointed out, no action to stop said actions. Nor does he even truly show his vampire strength. It's not like Louis is for nothing, and who your maker is means a lot. Who you're drinking blood from means a lot. So there are different stages of who is stronger in this world, which is why you have questions like, who is your maker? And not just because we want to make your family tree. We need to know basically what your skill set is. How much are we about to fuck with you? What place are you about to rank you about to play in this new scenario that we are in? But a lot of what you were saying in regards to Louis and his lack of being who he is innately, are even those uncomfortable things that he is exactly where a lot of Lestat's frustration was with him in the first season, where we have that scene where he's draining the tenor and he goes, I don't like that. And he's like, well, you don't have to like it, but you do need to embrace who you are, Louis. You're a killer, and stop pretending otherwise. Why do I like Lestat? I don't think I can fully answer that question without spoiling, even though I just died laughing when you said you think you is keeping information from the book, Coy, but you're not. So I will say that because this is where we're going to be talking about stuff from the books, not from the books, but from interviews at least, where the actor has stated that there are some scenes in season 1 that they're going to be revisiting. And I think that they have said this season that memory is the monster. We know at this point that Louis has conjured up a version of Lestat in his head that he has been relying on as a definitive memory of the events that led up to everything he divulged to Daniel in the first season. However, this season, it's becoming even more clear that something's going on with Louis' recollection, and that there are parts that he is remembering that doesn't line up with the predatory control freak that he ruminated that Lestat was. Like, what I think that's what Daniel's trying to pick at. Like, if this guy was this bad and this horrible, and there's nothing, because we're getting to another point that you make that I absolutely agree with. Why is it that Claudia sees you two as the love of your life? Like, there is a lot more complexity there that hasn't fully been explained and explored. And I love the way that they're bringing this into the book, but also into parts of the movie that the book didn't fully go into, because it stopped there. So yeah, there is a whole other, and that's where I'm kind of, I can't really say much more. But in the show, for me, the first season, whereas I agree, Lestat kept, due to his own particular whatever, doesn't matter what the reasons are, Claudia and Louis were handicapped about the extent of the world outside of himself due to him limiting when they got certain bits of information. And that did not do them any favors. It led to them walking into a scenario where they're woefully unprepared for the nature of the existence, because he refused to give that story. He refused to allow that curiosity, and I think he didn't expect, like, I think that was another one of his mistakes. Lestat should have never turned Claudia. He did it for Louis, which highlights his own, and I guess that's where some of it is where I can be shipping that against his own better judgment, against his own better, because a true narcissist cares about no one else but themselves. If you can put someone above yourself, and do something that is selfishly not going to benefit you, because Claudia did nothing but create a divide, the one that Louis wanted and sought to continue to deny his nature. Lestat would have never done that and should not have done that, but because Louis is his kryptonite, Louis is his weakness, and due to that crippling love he does have for all of the person that Louis is, it speaks to more than just a toxic type of love. Yes, that one incident was a turning point, certainly. But up until that moment, and even in the moments afterwards, Louis continued to be a priority. But Claudia was demanding an ultimatum. And that's where there's sides of Claudia that is herself part of her maker, which is really fascinating. But that's knowing a little bit more of the lore. And like you said, that might be me really speaking too much of the book, which is fair enough. Yeah, Lestat didn't handle the situation the best when things were unfolding in a manner that was ultimately going to lead to a reckoning of his demise. And of course, Claudia feels as if she is the true. There's a lot of her being spoiled. Yes, that is the part of the daughter behavior at the beginning of their relationship. Things for the couple, that's how they related to Claudia. That's how, in a lot of ways, she herself thought that's where she slot into their relationship. But it was only after what happened with Bruce, when she came back, she decided she wanted to be and recognized that was what Louis, the void he was trying to fill in his life, was that of his actual sister, which is why I refer to her as a sister. So I get what you're saying. There is sense there in that statement of why you would maintain that that would be their primary relationship, especially when you think of Lestat and how she's outsmarted who she thinks is the smartest of vampires. However, she was a pampered princess, indulged, loved, protected. She got to grow into a person that wants to stand in her own light, in her own agency, but finds that she will always continue to physically look like and be considered less than she is. Which kind of leads to my additional notes regarding Claudia, going back, because I know I didn't speak too much about her interaction with Madeline the dressmaker, how she saw that there was this dress she wanted, but she was shooed away as not being someone who not only could afford such dress, but Madeline sees in front of her a child playing at being an adult. But she continues to want to define herself and figure out who she is outside of Louis and their experience together. But there is a codependency on the way in which Louis depends on her, which is why he didn't put his foot down and say, let's go out of this place. Because one, he doesn't want to disappoint her. You brought up how the incident happened where he burned the whole entire town, or the whole entire town was burnt down. He also had a moment with his own sister where there was finally the closing of the door of that relationship when he showed up and kicked the door, and his mother was like, see, he is the devil. And all of this time, his sister had been trying her best to maintain their relationship, but it was him who kept putting further and further distance between himself, his priority to his family, and his true desire to be with Lestat, which I agree with as well. I don't think you're in the minority at all. He definitely has and continues to choose Lestat over Claudia. Remember, part of him thinks that once he falls in love, Lestat's gonna show up full of wrath, and he's prepared for that wrath if it means that he's alive, that there's still a chance for them to reconcile. Because Louis does not take a definitive stance, he allows others to make decisions for him. And this decision, despite his lust, yes, for Armand, that's as it is, right? But Claudia ultimately is the one who wants to stay, and he does what she wants to do. So I do think that there is this darker side. Now, I did put a quote online because I think that it's important, because I've had a lot of people while scrolling through Tumblr, which is my favorite thing for this show, act like Dreamstat is his own entity. Like that is supposed to be some type of version of Lestat, and it's not. Dreamstat isn't him or a figment of Louis' imagining of Lestat's responses. It's part of Louis' persona in the form of the manifestation that highlights his darker feelings. So the ones he refused to indulge in with the man himself, he now sees as the embodiment of that part of himself. I totally understand anyone that after that particular fight, the wounds, him dropping him, if Lestat is not for you, that is fair enough. That's a lot to come back from. Especially if you're just coming from a TV perspective. So I'm not at all gonna try to persuade you otherwise that these two people are good together. No more than I could ever really sell the idea of Olivia Pope and the president. I forgot his name right now. Olivia and Fitz. I can't say that these two people are the most healthy people for each other. But there's something about imperfect people being messy and recognizing their messy flaws, but trying to overcome them. Vampirism has really nothing to do with it. I know you were saying you think that I'm excusing or more lenient towards the behavior because they're vampires. Not really. It's more to do with the pushing, I see more within Lestat and within Louis than just the bad things. I also see the struggle within them, despite the fact that they're trying to be better than they actually are. So there's just something compelling about darker type of characters like that for me. And then throw in how fucking hot the actors are, and that underlining that is a profound love for each other that one has certainly accepted versus the other that rejected, leading to the events that led up to that huge, horrible fight where I would not agree that he stalked him afterwards. I will say he made attempts to court him. And I think deep down, if Louis really didn't want to be courted, he could have made that far more implicit. And that's the twisted cycle of it. It's not just one-sided. And I've never seen it one-sided because I've seen and watched in the first season, for me, Louis be very emotionally manipulative, especially when he's feeling some kind of way about being a bad person. He didn't need to leave that baby on the floor. That was his nephew. He did not need to leave the nephew on the floor. Nor did he bother to know who the nephew's names were, what their lives were about. This is supposed to be his blood. This is supposed to be his family. So that's how he treated his family in real life. Claudia don't know that about him because he's been dedicating himself in this do-over to make up for his previous mistakes. But if he doesn't acknowledge the root cause of said mistakes, then yes, he might be destined to repeat said mistakes and not take certain amount of accountability for his own decisions, trying to play into wearing different hats at different times, because he is himself, I keep saying, very disassociative. I'm glad that you like Daniel, because a lot of people for some reason don't like Daniel, and I don't understand why anyone would be frustrated with Daniel. They act like he is above himself to be questioning these vampires and getting snippy with them. And while, yes, I've made the comment several times that he does need to keep in mind when he's going toe-to-toe that they have powers that he does not. And he needs to be prepared for the hook that's going to come at some point. It was his insensitive reaction to a very cutting, because like I said, Louis wants to recall and sees Lestat as this villain in his backstory. And I think the only reason why he's still on this earth is because he's been telling himself a lie about himself and about him becoming a vampire and about him and his relationship with Lestat. Because how can he rationalize himself for loving someone that is so unhinged and diabolical? He doesn't want to have to reconcile that part that's attracted to all of that. And thus, Daniel be making a little too light of those moments, despite the fact that because he himself doesn't want to be emotionally sucked into Louis' story. And I think he's getting more sucked in emotionally to Louis than he realizes. And that was evident to me when he had that reaction when Louis thanked him, because they're feeling more like friends, which means friends share things with each other, deep things with each other. And that was a step too far. And so, of course, he's going to put up a lot of barriers and walls for himself in the form of being very on his guard, questioning everything. I mean, he can smell the bullshit from a mile away. He knows that they're utilizing him for a manner. He's getting flashbacks of shit he has no recollection of. So yeah, I think Daniel's everything the audience would be watching all the events unfold. But he does need to be a little bit more cautious in his handling. And I think that in a lot of ways, Louis wanted to remind, not only was he lashing out, I think it was twofold. He wanted to remind him, because it also seemed to have triggered a semi-protective. And this is also what Armand wanted too, right? Armand gave him what he wanted, so he gave Armand what he wanted, which makes me feel like this relationship is more a formality, a business relationship, a place of comfort, more so than a place of passion. I feel that Armand loves, I think I said this previously, I think that he loves Louis in a way that Louis never quite could love Armand, despite him being ideally the type of person that he should be in love with. And there is a connection and there is lust. But for me, Armand feels like a very one-dimensional person. Things are very black and white in his viewpoint of the world. And he doesn't have that sloppiness, that little bit of the devil in him that Louis is attracted to, because he himself has it. And I think that since the years have passed, something has happened where that part of Louis that he is attracted to is no longer that Louis. And I think also he was fully aware that Louis could go to that place. It seems as if, I did read that wrong. It wasn't Louis killing all of those boys, but it was Armand draining them. And then someone did a GIF on Tumblr, because they love drawing parallels, how Lestat said that he could fuck them and he would drain them, and that's pretty much the life that he's leading with Armand. I was like, oh my god.
And his name is bruh.
I don't think that Louis wants to leave Claudia. He can't undo his love for her. I don't think it's just responsibility. He does genuinely love her. She's able to talk to him in a manner that I think he only can allow due to their bond. Because she keeps or tries to keep him honest. But really, she's actually taking care of him while he's able to do things like wear that sexy looking scarf, running around doing photography, while he once again tries to go through an existential crisis by putting all of his mental energy into something that avoids the question. Louis is very, very good at pretending. Whatever it is to appease the people around him and maintain the facade of the person he needs to be, he will pretend. And I think that leads into his psychosis, because that boy is not healthy. He's not healthy at all. It's not just that he's cruel, especially in the present. My boy is mentally unwell, and he's not living his authentic self and hasn't been for 77 years. He's been floating through what seems like a very hedonistic existence, and I feel bad for Daniel, because I feel like he was on the plate for the dinner menu that night. For Louis, where Louis is embracing more of his dreamstat persona on the outside, and it's not just a figment of his imagination, because he sure as shit ain't seeing dreamstat now. So I think he really has physically embodied that part of himself that he, somewhere along the line of Claudia is my guess. Louis did, or the actor Jacob Anderson did say in an interview, I hope you guys still like Louis at the end of the season. For me personally, There's nothing Louis could do that I will not always love and root for him. And I think it boils down to, as I said, true evil does not feel guilt. They are light as a feather. So the fact that he is still feeling anything at all is where my empathy is drawn. It's the same with Lestat. It's the same with Claudia. Because Claudia is a pretty evil bitch. I love her. She's my evil bitch. But she could be just as vicious as her maker. We just feel her pain and her struggle a lot more keenly. But that's because we know her story. And lastly, one good observation about Santiago. There was definitely a threat in those words of who's your maker. And Guinevere does charting so they can track Bruce. And the way that they worship Lestat and the way Claudia hates him and desires his demise, I can't think that those two curved roads won't eventually meet up and there be a reckoning. Armand is constantly reading Louis' thoughts, so that means both untrained pupils are out of their depth in this theater. And her desire to fit in and belong and not feel, because when she is with Louis, that's one thing he does do. He shames her for wanting to be who she is, which is hypocritical and unfair of him, but he still does it. Just like she still throws in his face that he is a saint when it comes to Lestat. And while they can't stand each other for those truths, they can't undo the deep love that they have for each other. And then lastly, in regards to Louis, I don't know if the first season really made it as clear how suicidal Louis was at that moment. He had two choices. He either could die or he could become a vampire. If he really wanted to die, he could have just slit his throat and been done with it. Because that's where he was at. He wasn't walking out of that church. But he also had the opportunity, if he became a vampire, a chance at true love and true happiness. And that's what Lestat felt he was offering him in that moment. But afterwards, he certainly, in my opinion, and I agree with your thought process, undermined everything due to his own reasons, which are not an excuse, which made them vulnerable and react the way they did, to the point where they felt the need to kill him to get out of their way, because he could not let them go. He refused to let them go. And that is definitely a point. A very, very fair point at this stage in the story to hold against the man.
I don't know you, and I don't care to know you.
I cannot wait to hear your thoughts for episode 3. I cannot wait myself to watch episode 3. And now that I'm done with the podcast, I'm starting to get the itch. But I probably will watch it tomorrow. There are a few Tumblr bits that I did want to address before we bow out. See, it's a good thing I did this podcast separate, because this is a whole other fucking hour. And I'm happy right now to have made this choice. So we'll continue it the rest of the season. So if you want to send feedback, blackgirlcouch@gmail.com. From a interview with Jacob Anderson, he said, "My feeling about Louis is that he is the most vampire of all of them. He has the highest drive and jonesing for blood. I think he really wants blood. I think he hates human beings. Everything he says he is. I think he is the opposite. I think he feels the need to overcompensate for a really deep bloodlust, and he really wants to be a vampire. He's the reticent vampire because he is reticent to embrace what he is, to which Sam Reed replied, until he's not. And lastly, shout out to, I don't want to mess this up, Ariast, who stated, Louis and Armand out here having the world's most boring, pathetic sex. They're like, we're so healthy. We have grown past our shitty boyfriend having phase. Now we're having always safe, sane, and consensual. We don't have unhinged sex anymore. They are going insane. This is why Louis is having a mental breakdown. He's been having intensely hinged sex for 77 years, like 100% slow lovemaking with clear communication and so much lube, and always 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger cock. To sum that up, you're both bottoms, traumatized bottoms with daddy issues. I loved everything about that post. I laughed so hard because it's so true. And it's nice to get a perspective from the community in which this show is, especially in Pride Month coming out, definitely swinging for. Once again, if you want to send feedback, blackgirlcouch@gmail.com. You can leave a comment below. My social medias will be there as well, wherever you listen to this podcast, wherever good podcasts can be found. Go down to the rating section, drop some stars, leave a review. Until the next time, peace, hair grease, and blacker magic.